Hello and welcome to the very first video of the JUnit tutorial series. So in this tutorial series, we'll be learning JUnit. We'll be seeing what is JUnit and what are the other components of the JUnit, and we'll try to learn JUnit completely. So it is a crash course type of course. So let's get started. So in our very first video, we'll be seeing introduction to the JUnit, what is JUnit and why it is important, why to use JUnit. Okay, so let's get started. Uh, JUnit is a unit testing framework for Java, and the current version of the JUnit is JUnit 5, which is the latest version. And the framework is used by the Java developers to write and execute the test cases. Okay, so there are different types of test cases. Okay, so the JUnit is specifically used for the unit testing, refers to the testing which refers to the testing of small chunks of codes. Okay, so it is basically done by the developer itself. So very small chunk of code is used, and the test cases are written for that code, and the Java developer will execute those test cases, right? So it helps in early identification of the defects. Okay, so as I said you, the unit testing is done on the very small chunk of the code. So you can do unit testing on that small chunk of the code, and you can, if there is any defect in the code, you can get and rectify that error there itself. Early identification of the error is done using JUnit. Okay, so every time a new code is added, all the test cases have to be re-executed. Okay, so in JUnit, you are performing the test on the small chunk of code. Okay, so every time you added a new piece of code, you have to execute all the test cases again. Okay, so it is an open source testing framework for Java programmers. The Java programmer can create the test cases and test his or her own code. Okay, so as I told you, unit testing is done by the developer itself because it is done on the very small chunk of code which is written by the developer itself. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what are the types of unit testing. Okay, so there are mainly two types of unit testing. One is manual testing and one is automated testing. Okay, so what is manual testing? If you execute the test cases manually without any tool support, it is known as the manual testing. Okay, it is time consuming and less reliable. Okay, so assume manual testing as if you have written a small chunk of code and you have developed your own test cases. Let's suppose 5 to 10 test cases, and you are testing those test cases manually by yourself. Okay, so it would take a much amount of time, and it is less reliable also, because you have to do everything. You have to write the code, you have to write the test cases, and you have to test those test cases, right? And the second comes automated testings. If you execute the test cases by a tool support, it is known as a automated testing, which is fast and more reliable. Okay, so there are certain tool available in the market which you can use to do this unit testing. We will see in our upcoming videos how we can do the automated testing and manual testing as well. Okay, so the developers are tend to spend more time on reading the code. Okay, so the unit testing means you are performing the testing on a small chunk of code. That means the developer have to spend more and more time reading and improving that small amount of code. Okay, the successful code increases the confidence of the developer. Okay, so and it is more reliable and readable code is written by the developers. Okay, so if there are no errors in the code, and then the developer are tend to write the more readable and more readable code which can be easily understand by the other developers as well. Okay, so this is the introduction about the JUnit. I hope you got the idea, some basic idea what is JUnit. So in our upcoming videos or the next video, we will be seeing how to install the JUnit in our PC. And thank you guys for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.